Hello, greetings everyone. So we just have to start, and um, those who are co-hosts, you can help me to um, add people help moderating, and those who join in as we just start swiftly without wasting anyone's time. So we've been in this program for sometimes now, and we've tried to do so much for ourselves and for the vision behind before us. And the idea is to educate people on the importance of living a quality lifestyle and doing the right thing, and then also the business aspect of it. There have been a whole lot of conversations from experts from the biology of aging, the economics of aging, and everything. So it has been an interesting conversation. So today we'll be looking at key trends, in the longevity science and markets. And today we have Fiona Miller. She is one of those kind souls in this space and very quiet in this space, not all those on the face people. So she will be talking to us about looking at what had happened around the turn of this century, what the scientists are doing, the possibilities to address the root cause of most diseases, which is aging itself, and the economic implication of this new healthcare paradigm, which is currently at $2.5 trillion dollars. So, and um, she 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 will also look at the need and why we should really start considering, because as Africans we need to understand what is happening, and we shouldn't be left behind, you know. So who is our faculty, although we'll give her time to tell us a little bit about her background. But if you follow her on LinkedIn, you would see that she's been in this game for a long time, right? So she's the managing partner of Quadrascope Venture. So the funds that invest in early stage healthcare companies, developing pharmaceuticals, diagnostic software, equipment, and devices enabling biological age reversal. So we are sitting with an investor, in quotes. She's an investor. She runs a company that invests. I don't know if this person, what's his name, is here. I think he should be in this. Okay, fine, should be in this class. So this investors, this company invests in these things that I've mentioned. So she's also been the founder and CEO of Octoscope, founder and CTO of Azimuth System, and a whole lot. But she's very calm. So thank you so much, Fiona, for making up time to be here. And the mic is yours. Tell us a little bit about the background, and then we get into the conversation proper.
Terrific. Asinakachi, thank you so much for inviting me. And hello to everyone from Boston, which is where I am now and which is where I live, and that's where our fund is. So I am going to show a few slides. Let me share my screen. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so, right, so as Asinakachi said, we are going to talk about longevity science and market. Quadrascope Venture is a venture fund that I manage. And I will tell you about the companies. We invest in startup companies. And so today I bring you some stories from the field, stories of what the companies that we know we invested in are doing in this market. and also about, in general, the market, the economics, and the impact, frankly, on our health and the quality of life for all of us. Okay, so we invest. This is our thesis. This is a formal statement of what the fund does. We invest in early stage healthcare companies developing a broad range of technologies, so including pharmaceuticals, diagnostics, software, equipment, devices, all of them enabling disease treatment and prevention through biological age reversal. Now, biological age reversal is the most effective way to fight diseases of aging, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute. But first, I'd like to show you our team. So myself, this three of us are running the fund. I am the managing partner and the founder. Who's Dr. Jose Navarro Betancourt is our scientist. He is our scientific director, and Eve is our finance analyst. And this team is deeply entrenched in longevity, biotech, and healthcare and science. Some of these people probably are on your program. I think Aubrey de Grey is one of your speakers, if I'm not mistaken, but these are prominent folks who know the market for a decade or more, we're all together looking at getting capital to the companies that are going to change the world and are going to create revolutionary treatments for aging and disease. So let's talk about aging and disease. I left you with the question of, why is treating aging the most impactful way to treat diseases? Well, this conference is ongoing. I think you probably have heard this already. But today's medicine is treating diseases, and there are hundreds of diseases, and we have given them names, but they're really symptoms. And about 80% of these diseases are symptoms of aging. They're age-related diseases. Young people don't get Alzheimer's, heart disease, atherosclerosis, and so forth. These are old people's diseases. And the root cause of these diseases is aging itself. But aging itself is not so simple. It's not one thing. And so since about the turn of the century, about the year 2000, scientists have started in earnest studying aging and defining what is aging. And today's definition, the best definition we have, is the hallmarks of aging. There are 12 of them. There may be other things, one or two, but order of magnitude, you have a dozen things that you can treat that cause hundreds of diseases. So example of that, probably everybody knows about stem cells. Stem cells create all tissue, and they build tissue, they build cells, they replace as we wear out, they repair anything that's broken. Most people know what they are. But as we grow older, we don't have enough of them. They get corrupted, they die out. Mitochondria is another one a lot of us know about. It's the energy source of every cell. And they go bad. So young people, they have very healthy mitochondria. They're full of energy. They can fight diseases. They have stem cells. They have a brand new genomic, genes are undamaged. And basically no inflammation. Inflammation is a thing, the immune system, when it gets weak, you get inflammation in your body that doesn't go away. Typically, we get inflammation if you get a cold or a flu. Inflammation comes from the immune system. Immune system creates inflammation to fight a disease, and that's good. But when your body starts deteriorating as you age, your inflammation doesn't go away, it just builds up, and that's not good. And so these dozen things, they cause hundreds of diseases. And how does that work? So just as an example, okay, well, let's take, for example, cellular senescence, hallmark, the cellular senescence. You've probably already heard senescent cells are old cells, they stop dividing, but they're toxic cells. They're actively toxic in the body. And today, all of these diseases are being tested now. They're in trials to be cured by treating senescent cells, potentially specific senescent cells appropriate for these diseases. Now, we do need to look at diseases. It would be nice if we could say, okay, let's not wait for the disease. Let's just treat aging and not wait, and the diseases won't happen. If we all stay young, we won't get these diseases, and that's nice. But the reality is that we have regulatory bodies like the FDA, and they require us to have a disease before we medicate people. You don't generally treat, I mean, preventive medicine exists in a limited way. For example, heart diseases are treated mostly preventative, but for the most part, we need a disease. Another example is chronic inflammation, right? That causes all of these diseases, lots of diseases. And the more we study it, the more we see the damage of that. And that goes back to the immune system. Okay. So the idea behind longevity, healthcare longevity biotech is, okay, we're going to focus on these hallmarks of aging. And if a company, let's say we invest in a company, if they can deal with at least one hallmark of aging, then they can probably treat a number of diseases, any number of diseases. And that creates a platform. So by focusing on these hallmarks, essentially, when you're going to design new drugs, you're creating a platform of drugs that can create multiple diseases. And the first example of longevity drug are actually obesity drugs, are these weight loss drugs. You probably all know Ozempic. Ozempic came to life in 2017. And again, this is just like longevity. It came to life for a disease. You have to start with a disease or the FDA will not license you to sell your drug. So disease was type 2 diabetes. But then interesting thing happened, and in 2021, the same essential drug, just different name, Wegovy, got approved to treat obesity for weight loss. And now that's not a disease, technically speaking, but it's a root cause. And that's exactly what longevity drugs are. So imagine wildly successful drugs like weight loss drugs, but having dozens of them emerging to treat multiple diseases. And with weight loss drugs, we have heart attack and stroke, fatty liver, chronic kidney disease, a whole bunch of new diseases being actually in trials. This year, they are in trials. So that is exactly our market. That's how longevity drugs will behave. There will be some root cause that applies to a lot of diseases. And already the big companies, big pharma, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, are using names like longevity medicine. These are their slides, longevity drugs. Okay, they understand what it is. And they are in this market. And that's a really big endorsement because for a long time, longevity medicine was a new kid on the block. It's a young industry, a little bit strange. But now it's recognized by the mainstream. And this is happening, this big inflection you see here is happening just within a year within a year. you have this big surge of interest. This is Google search index that you can get. It's out in the open, searching for longevity. So Eli Lilly, with its longevity drug, the weight loss drug, is already, its market cap is $1 trillion. It's the first pharmaceutical company that broke $1 trillion market cap. It is also a big investor in longevity companies. I'll give you a couple of examples here. New Limit, just doing a raise, and it's valued at 1.6 billion. That's a startup company valued at 1.6 billion. Eli Lilly is putting the money in as a strategic investor. You have RetroBio here. You can, by the way, if you get these slides, you can click. I have a few links embedded that are interesting. They are raising $5 billion at $1 billion valuation. Okay. In silico just went public in Hong Kong at a record oversubscription rate. There is a small company, 100 people and no revenue, that had some weight loss innovation. There was a bidding war for them, and Pfizer ended up acquiring them for $10 billion. A small company of 100 people, no revenue, $10 billion. So this gives you an idea of the value that we are creating here. Because this is the source. These longevity drugs bring us well-being. They stave off diseases, and they can cure diseases. They can both prevent and cure, because if you can make somebody stronger in terms of, let's say, mitochondria, we'll talk about some specific examples in a minute, or a stronger immune system, fewer of these senescent cells that are toxic, you remove them, your body is stronger, it can fight the disease even if you already have the disease. So to that end, our fund invested in companies. We have 14 companies that we invested in, and they are diversified along the hallmarks of aging. They address different hallmarks. But also we have clinical and preclinical. We have a mix of companies at different stage of maturity, if you will. So I'm not going to go over each of them, but I do have slides where you can read and you can click on them and learn more. But I'm going to show you a few highlights. So let me start with X Prize Health Span. Some of you may know it. X Prize is a prize for technology, in this case, medicine, in this case, longevity. It's called X Prize Health Span. And it has $101 million to award. They have a target for companies to rejuvenate people by 2030. And the company or a team, doesn't have to be a company, could be an academic team, that wins. They will have to show rejuvenation at the level of immune system, functional, like muscle, walking, activities, mental function, all of that. So this is an ongoing effort. And there are over 700 competing teams for this prize. And 3 of our portfolio companies are semifinalists, and there are only 40 semifinalists among over 700 competing teams at this stage. And so that's me at this event, we're celebrating their making semifinals. And I'll tell you a little bit about them also. So one of them we highlight also, there's another set of highlights, 5 companies. That's one of the companies that's also in the semifinals. So Immunis, so what do they do? So the hallmark is chronic inflammation. Now they're assisting some of these weight loss drugs Because when you take a weight loss drug like Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide, all of them, you lose a lot of weight, but about 30% of the weight you lose is muscle. And if you're elderly or even like over 50, it is very, very hard to rebuild muscle. You just struggle, and I will show you some of my results. I will show you what it really means. When you're young, you go work out, you build muscles, great. But when you're older, you just can't rebuild it. So if you lose 30% of your muscle, that's not a good thing. And so Immunis is targeting muscle wasting, muscle loss. Also, we know a sarcopenia. When you age, people in their 70s start getting sarcopenia. They just lose muscle and lose it no matter what they do. They get emaciated and frail. So that's the condition they're targeting. Muscle loss is caused by chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is caused by immune system. And so we have a tutorial that our director, our scientific director, Jose Navarro, put together. You can go and learn a little more about it and dive in. So what Immunis is doing is they have unusual medication. So typically a drug is a single molecule, but Immunis has over 400 molecules that are derived from immune system progenitor cells. So immune system stem cells for embryonic cells that are the most potent. So if you think about longevity healthcare treating a root cause, Immunis is treating root cause of a root cause, okay? So the cause of muscle wasting is inflammation. The cause of inflammation is immune system. So Immunis goes right to that, and you get cascading benefits from that. You strengthen your immune system, you reduce inflammation, and you allow people to maintain or build muscle. And so I can show you my own result. I snuck into this trial somehow, and I will show you a couple of interesting plots. So let me explain. These are plots from what's called a DEXA scan. And DEXA gives you two important things. So body composition, that means how much of the weight of my body is fat and how much is lean mass. Now, they don't go to zero. So that's my total weight in kilograms. So lean mass, I have about 30% fat. And as I age, you see, this is in years. This is 2022. And I work out every day. I lift weights, I swim, I run, I do everything that I did when I was young. But look what's happening to the fat composition. I can't fight it. And my muscle, at best, I'm so far keeping it kind of level, right? So the trial was 4 injections into the muscle once every week. So this is after 4 weeks. You already see me moving in the right direction, okay? Less fat, more muscle. But even more exciting here is bone mass density, okay? So as you know, there's sarcopenia as people age. They have sarcopenia. That's this red, red area here. There's osteopenia, which is kind of not nice. It's below normal. Green is normal. And so I've been stuck with osteopenia. And, when you get sarcopenia, you can easily break a bone. You can just have a regular fall and break a big bone like a femur and end up being immobilized because the bones are too frail. This is not a good thing. A lot of it, if you get immobilized, you lose your ability to exercise. And a lot of people die shortly after that. It seems like a minor accident, but very serious. So bone density is important. And I've been working on it. You can see, going back to my age, I went on hormone therapy, which is supposed to help, which helped a little bit. I've been doing weight-bearing exercises. I do everything, but it's just very, very slow. You see how over the years, how slow. I mean, it does work, but very minimally, right? Not in any material way. But in the 4 weeks of the trial, take a look at what happened. I got into the normal range. The T-score is 0. That line is 0. That means I am average in my age group, okay, in bone mass density. So that's a big deal. If that is the meaning of bringing us, reversing the biological ages, and getting different tissues to the different levels. So that's just one example. So I told you I'm bringing stories from the field. This is my own personal experience now. So the next company we highlight is in Boston here in our fair city called Vincere. They're working on mitochondria. Again, Jose has a tutorial. You can go and play and learn more. But mitochondria is now widely recognized as the key longevity hallmark of aging. Because no matter what you do, there are many approaches to rejuvenation. Without power, the cell cannot rejuvenate itself. You can go destroy senescent cells. You can reprogram the cells. There's cellular reprogramming techniques with Yamanaka factors. You can bring them back to a younger epigenetic age. But mitochondria has its own genome. And without it, you cannot, even though you've changed your epigenetics and fixed other things, but without power, you're not going to get younger. Without power, your immune system's not going to get restored. So that's a very, very important thing to fix. So Vincere is working on that. The reason we highlighted them is they're doing it right, which is indicated by endorsements and partnerships. They have Michael J. Fox Foundation just gave them $5 million. And Michael J. Fox Foundation is running a program for compassionate use for Parkinson's disease. So Parkinson's disease heavily dependent on mitochondria. So this is where I come back. What is longevity? Healthcare, it has to have a disease. But, more important is a hallmark of aging, of course. But the disease is Parkinson's in this case, but there are half a dozen other diseases. And so they are starting to treat Parkinson's already. And another area where they have a partnership with Beiersdorf, which is a German cosmetic company for a cosmetic product by treating mitochondria. Okay. So watch these tutorials. There's a lot to learn there. I'm going to move on to BioChange. BioChange is an Israeli company right there on your continent. And they're working on tissue regeneration. Now, this is a fascinating science. I will tell you a little bit about it. So I'm going to switch to a concept here called extracellular matrix. Asanakashi, how am I doing on time? How much time do I have?
Go ahead. You still have time.
Okay. So extracellular matrix is basically our tissue. Cells live on this matrix. Matrix is composed of primarily collagen and elastin and some other proteins. Okay, and they form a kind of a mesh. Think of it as foam or something. So ECM forms our whole bodies. That's what we are. We're mostly ECM. Our lungs, our heart, our blood vessels, skin, everything. And the cells, they just maintain it. They live on it. They go and they communicate through it. ECM vibrates. It has this vibration that the cells use, and mechanical vibration to talk to each other. And to coordinate how to build tissue. That's what they do. But there's good science there that tells us that it's the ECM that's going to give out first. That is the limiting thing to limit our lifespans. Because cells are happy. You can take, for example, stem cells from an old organism, say a mouse, put them in a young organism, another mouse, and they live just fine. They implant and they function well. They outlive their original organism. But you take stem cells from a young mouse and put them in the old mouse, and they don't do anything. And that's because of the matrix. The matrix is degraded. Now, I don't have here a photo, but there is a famous photo that shows you pristine young ECM versus old. They look very different. Old, you have frayed fibers, you have these AGEs, advanced glycation end products from sugar that we eat. They gunk up the works. They stiffen our tissues. They stiffen blood vessels. That's where a lot of the heart disease comes from stiff blood vessels, and also, of course, plaque, but that's different mechanism. Okay, so ECM, and that's what biochange is rebuilding. Now, they are focusing on several markets, several applications. They're starting with the gum, receding gums and periodontal disease. And they are right now working in a veterinary area, and they're working with dogs. And I will show you some very interesting things. So, the humans, of course, they're going in humans next. But with animals, it's quicker to market. It's a lot less investment to get to market. So that's where they're starting. But all of us, as we age, we're going to lose. First, we'll lose bone around, that bone that holds the teeth. And then the gum just retreats together with the bone. We get periodontal disease, which is a bacterial disease that actually penetrates deep into our bodies and causes all kinds of aging. There's a recent paper that came out on this. And of course, okay, so let's start with this. So what they're doing, they actually have this material that they could fill in surgically or non-surgically with the dogs, and then the bone after a few months. That material allows you to regrow the bone or other tissue. It lets you regrow bone and gum tissue independently. And how does that work? The way it works is it mimics embryonic extracellular matrix. When it's embryonic, it has a certain composition. It's very clean, kind of spongy material. And when the cells already in the tissue, already, let's say here in the bone, there are stem cells everywhere. They find this embryonic environment, and they know they have the signaling through it, and they know they have to build tissue, because when we are an embryo, we build tissue, we grow, we build organs. That's what cells know what to do. They are programmed to do that. So that's how all of this works. And what you will observe is very interesting, is that the cells themselves know the shape of the bone, and the gum, which regenerates much faster than the bone. But these two tissues regenerate each at its own pace and cover up, and they just know the shape they're supposed to be. So that's the amazing thing about nature. So you have other applications, wrinkles, wound healing, breast reconstruction, incontinence is another one they just recently got certified for. Now I'm going to show you this video. And I don't know whether the audio will come across well. This is a pig's ear. There's a pig under there. It's alive. And they punched out a hole in both ears. And one ear they filled with this material, and the other they didn't. And what you will see is where they didn't fill it, scar tissue formed and the hole stayed. And where they filled it, the tissue regrew, but not just one tissue, skin, cartilage, soft tissue, and even blood vessels. That means it's alive. And if you test epigenetically, that tissue is young. It's younger than the animal. So I'm going to play it for you. You may or may not be able to make out the audio, but I will try to comment on it. But you have a link here. It's a short presentation on in a conference.
About this, all the way to something. And one side was applied with the form, the other side was used.
So that's the material.
So this is the control side. We saw started and it stopped growing at that point. And in the cell phone, this is 3 weeks later, in the cell phone side, we saw really big growth of the ear with all the internal structure as well, not just the skin. You can see the pinkish baby skin there because it's new. Then we looked deeper into it and measured the differences between the control and the test and looked at the histology and put them on the same scale. We could see the evidence that we are generating the skin, hair follicles, we are generating everything, looking at the cartilage, which grows slower. And this is just 7 weeks after the section of the disc.
Right, so you can see, I don't know if you could hear him, but he said the cartilage grows slower, but everything got restored and it's young tissue. So that, to me, is a wonderful thing with a lot of capability. Now, a couple of other highlights. We have Olden, which is basically an AI-based medicine and drug discovery. So you probably know there's a lot of AI machine learning going on in various fields. Now, for personalized medicine, how do we approach it? I mean, my doctor will have some knowledge based on other patients that she has treated throughout her career. And so when she looks and measures my symptoms, my blood work, biomarkers, and then she dips into her knowledge, her experience, and her education to interpret what she sees and diagnose me and treat me. So if you have AI-based doctor, that doctor has the knowledge of many decades, whatever knowledge base exists, the data sets that it has available are key, right? Many decades, millions of patients, and it's flawless memory. It can flawlessly match my biomarkers, whatever they measure in me. Look at the knowledge base, all the data sets in the world instantly, like no human ever can, and figure out what's wrong with me. And also figure out what worked with respect to that knowledge base of the world. So this completely changes medicine. And the same exact technology applies to drug discovery. So we can speed up everything. We can make our diagnosis more powerful. So many people get misdiagnosed. I had Lyme disease, which was, and Lyme disease it comes from a tick bite. And it has very different symptoms in different people. It depends on my own environment and my body, but also depends on the type of tick and the environment of the tick. And so we have different symptoms, very, very difficult. And nobody knew what was wrong with me for a long time. Meanwhile, the bacteria got established and built bio, the protections for itself, and it was very hard to treat it afterwards. So hopefully, automated AI-based medicine will be a lot more effective and save people from all the needless suffering when they get misdiagnosed and treated for the wrong thing, which can kill them ultimately. But the reason we flagged it is there are a lot of companies trying to do this now, but the key difference is in the knowledge base and these data sets, and also the completeness of biomarkers, what they call digital twin now. How thoroughly can they measure me and characterize me and keep track over time? That's my digital twin. And also, what does the algorithm they have access to in terms of knowledge, right? How does it reference it? So those two things. And of course, machine learning algorithms are more or less standard, but the key differentiator is the knowledge base. After that comes how well do they measure me. And so that's a fascinating thing. The last one company we have highlighted here, Repair. Repair is the first company to demonstrate the reversal of atherosclerosis. So that's the plaque accumulating in your arteries as you age. About half of us will die of atherosclerosis if not treated. And today, what do we have to treat it? The best thing we have is statins. Statins, by the way, destroy your mitochondria and cause insulin resistance, which is diabetes. They're mildly effective, but they do not reverse the buildup of plaque. They can at best slow it down. So nothing can reverse it. Repair just recently demonstrated reversal in non-human primates and monkeys, which means that from monkeys to translate to humans is very low risk versus, let's say they did it in mice first. From mice to humans is a much higher risk that it will actually translate to us and work for us if it worked in mice. But with monkeys, it is a very high likelihood it'll work. Very promising. They got some good investment to carry them forward. So that's kind of what I have to say. I do have on every company you can read, and in some cases we have interviews online with the founders, and you can take a deeper dive. I think that's kind of the stories I wanted to highlight. And so I welcome your questions.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was a very sleek and in-depth presentation and teachings around broad spectrum of what is going on in the community. I've been in this space for a while, but there are some companies that have just been penning down that I'm hearing for the first time, and we are the partner of X Prize in Africa. So Afrolongevity is a representative of X Prize.
Oh, that's
And
terrific. Yeah.
yes, so we did sign an MOU. Yeah, and Peter Diamandis, right, and others in the community, we had a conversation. But everything is working slowly because he talked about having centers also in Africa, and we had deep conversation, and Aubrey did strongly recommended me for that. So that's on the level of X Prize, and congratulations for your team and everything and what you're doing. Yes, I'm super excited. There are some other projects that we have our around the research and development team. I did mention was introducing you about Okeke Fani, who is looking at some of the project that we are doing, and that's going to be another conversation. I'm going to organize a meeting for us to discuss about that. So thank you so much for what you're doing in the communities, quietly doing in the community without making noise. So we open the floor for questions and conversation. So one of the important questions that someone asks here is, do you have an idea of a company, or have you seen any work on hip regeneration?
For regeneration of what? Sorry?
The hip.
Oh, hip.
Yeah.
Ah, wow, that's a hard one. That I have hip replacement scheduled for Monday, and I have looked everywhere, and I have tried a lot of things that people think will regenerate. My condition is too advanced. It's possible that earlier, stages could be addressed. I think people are using stem cells, but it's not clear they're efficacious. There is a paper that just came out last month from the Buck Institute. You probably know it's the premier longevity institute, scientific institute. And that paper, and I can send you a link if you'd like, it's demonstrating that, okay, so we initially thought cartilage gets lost first. That exposes the bone, and then the bone gets damaged. But this paper turns it on its head and says that first you get bone damage. That damaged bone then has signaling going to the cartilage that damages the cartilage. It's the other way around. So again, thinking about root cause, right? The root cause of cartilage loss, it seems to be bone. This is very new information. And so this is doubly important what I was showing you, osteopenia or osteoporosis. That's going to also degrade that. It just, when you have bad tissue, the tissue communicates, the cells communicate with one another. We don't completely understand all the mechanisms, but I would go read that paper before I would treat, and I'm going to pursue this. So stay in touch because I'm interested in investing. I don't think we have a good treatment today. Hip is very difficult. It bears a lot of load, and the mechanical motion is extensive. There are many degrees of freedom and a lot of weight bearing. And so it's a tough area to treat. I think they can treat, like a biochange can treat breaks, and if you have a bone break in the bone and you put that material in, it'll help it heal. I don't think it'll work for just treating the bone in large area. So that's what we need to look at next, I'd say. And for the hip or even knees, it all starts going together. But the hip, mine went first. I have left hip. That's gone at this point.
Yeah,
I'll be looking.
that's amazing. I think in the last class, the first cohort, I brought in an expert, what's his name? Tom Casey. But you know Tom Casey in the US, they run a clinic. They try to they do some sort of plasma-based intervention, and when it comes to the replacement, they do it kind of in phases, right? So, and it's a little bit it's a little bit dicey. I mean, what they do, because I had a conversation with them, and through Walter Crompton, Walter Crompton, he happens to be our editor for the magazine of the future, because we run a magazine, all those things that we are putting up a system to make them work, to facilitate them again. And so they help in using the YFFP, that's the young fresh frozen plasma, and someone a way of using it to replace that of the older adults, because of the healing pace of the older adults and accumulated damages, and or that slows down the process of the replacements and everything. And so they now use their finding is that the younger adults can really get new plasma. So they now take those plasma and support the healing process of the older adults. So we didn't finish the conversation, and I told him that I'm interested in the conversation and that I would want to really know more. And he was open for a quality conversation. So, and yeah, that's it. But the problem there is, of course, the bureaucratic bottlenecks across different countries, and the variables of policies, healthcare institutions, and gatekeepers that are causing these so there are also ethical implications. We cannot pretend to have oversight on, some of all these things. We need to also look at it critically before saying a yes, even though that we need them. So it's a step at a time. So that's it. My question from where I'm sitting is that there is not so much happening with I've presented this in the longevity social. I've presented this in the International Longevity Alliance, and now, God's willing, I'm now a board member. And I always ask this thing: there is some sort of disinterestedness when it comes to Africa, right? Of course, we see a lot of programs we are in the longevity socials together. You see a lot of programs in there, and there is no one about Africa, something happening in Africa. And for
Yeah,
instance,
we
you
need
see,
more of your talent represented for sure.
yeah, so we have um, hundreds of longevity events in the US. We have hundreds in Asia. We only have one. We usually have one in Africa, and that one is the International Longevity Summit, which is the premier longevity events in Africa. But this year we decided, because we are 1 point something billion population, and we have the youngest population in the world. And so we're
Oh,
looking at we have the youngest population. Our median age is 19,
wow.
so yes. So we are looking at having 3 events for the whole continent, and we have 55 countries. The report 54, but currently we have 55 countries. So Nigeria, which is the most populous country in the continent, we are about 250 million. So you can't just push that under the carpet. And I wish that we have more interest when it comes to we don't do longevity, we don't organize funding opportunities where we look at what is happening, because a lot is happening in Africa, be it health tech, med tech, and biotech. A lot is happening, and we are trying to solve a lot of friction, and there is problem. Most African countries operate based on open drug markets. There is no structured system where pharmaceuticals have retail shops to sell their products, directly. So it's all about white labeling. People go into white label in India and China, and then they bring it into an open market where people go and source for medication. And anyone can just wake up and open a small pharmacy. So it's problematic, and that's why you have things like substandard um, medications and all that. So there is a need for investments. There is a need for the big players like you to at least consider Africa. And I was
Absolutely.
glad.
And yeah, I'd be curious to learn more about Africa and opportunities. Certainly a lot of talent here, young talent with a lot of energy. And, if there's good regulatory framework that allows us to make progress, that's also good. That's
Yeah,
helpful.
there
Yeah.
is, because we also putting up efforts to look at, for instance, the KZN government. When we had conversations with them, we were looking at the blue zone, something like the blue zone, and they talked about free market economy, and those things. The government said, okay, we're going to approve that to see if we can bring investors, and then things like little tax waivers and all that. But most importantly, on the personalities, the people that are doing something, because I think there is something my friend Ugochukwu Alo did mention, that in this age and time we shouldn't be talking about first world countries. We should be looking at first world persons and second world persons, because there are people from the third world countries that are doing extremely good. So yeah, so thank you so much. I don't know if you would like to say one or two things about that, and then we look at questions from other persons.
Yeah, no, we are, yes, certainly, we invest internationally. We would love to have further conversations. Yes. But I would
Okay.
add a little bit more about on hip, issues, right? Or just bone issues in general. The company that in our portfolio that is semi-finalist in X Prize, I didn't talk about it, another one. I talked about one of them. The second one has clothos therapy. It's mRNA clothos therapy. And clotho is known, it's a protein, it's a longevity protein, a very potent protein. It's known to regenerate bone. So it is possible, that it will restore bone and cartilage too systemically. So that's promising, and I would look to that, as well as you could see that Immunis restored some of my bone density. And it was only a 4-week trial, so maybe, and that's similar to young plasma because it has these young proteins from a embryonic stem cell line. So it probably has similar proteins and factors and cytokines that act on the bone because you could see the results. So yeah, I don't want to dismiss young plasma, but there are risks that could be infections happen, right? And there are, like in the US, they see pretty good rate of infections. So something to be careful with. But it may be one thing that probably works pluripotently on many things, including bone, which would help.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Questions, please. You just raise up your hand and then the questions or in the chat. Let me check the chat first. Okay, there's a question here. How is it possible old cells are comfortable in a young organism than a cell from a than a cell from a young organism in the body of an old organism? I don't understand the question. So, like I said, there are complications. There are ethical reference. The idea is that it matches, but there is an opportunity for the younger person to have a regenerated plasma than the older person to regrow or regenerate a new plasma. So that's just the high level answer to the question. So, but there are also ethical concerns there. Of
Yeah,
course, you
that's
know
why
that some of all these things.
there are ethical
Okay.
concerns. Yeah, Immunis is a good solution because it's a cell line that's mass produced, non-immunogenic, it's safe, it's off the shelf. But it basically has selected 400 plus proteins that are intended to rejuvenate the tissue and help the muscle grow, help the bone, everything like that, without getting it from a young person and without these ethical issues, right? Because we can grow cells in a bioreactor and then extract the relevant factors from them. That's called secretome secretions. So that's the future. In the future, we'll have these things off the shelf and we don't have to get them from another person, which is also carries risks, not just ethical, but just infection risks. I'm just trying to read the chat here. So I'm not a physician. I just know what I learned from talking to the companies we invest in. And so I see here, since BioChange, Saho, of course, since BioChange has achieved success in dentistry, does it mean there is great hope for those who have cavities and had tooth extractions in the past for regeneration of tooth? So don't think they have done direct work on actual tooth regeneration, but what they have shown is that the foam will encourage regeneration of tissues in adults because as adults, we don't regenerate tissue, but as embryos, we do. And even young children can regenerate tissue much more easily. Like if you're before 5 years old, your body, your matrix will itself know how to regenerate. It is, and because when they injected this foam, it looks like an embryo. The stem cells rebuild the tissue, which normally would not happen in an adult, like in that pig. And they rebuild different tissues. They rebuild cartilage, skin, and soft tissue. For the tooth, you have the root, right? You've got enamel, you've got, I guess, the soft part of it. Again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just thinking aloud that it's possible, but the company has not done any work on that.
Okay. Sorry, Chisom. Hope I got this correctly this time around. She wanted to ask a question. Chisom, are you there?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you very much, Fiona, for the amazing lecture. Mine is not exactly a question, but just an experience. Now, it's not even around the truth, or mostly it was an experience. I don't know if I have the permission to share. It's mostly a family friend of, yes, a family friend of mine whose son had some kind of, so when you were telling the story, I could picture the plasma because he had at a point he couldn't walk anymore. He lost the memory of walking. And so he was admitted in the Lagos Teaching Hospital for a year, for an entire year. So but then when he was eventually got back home, infections, and so what had happened is they needed to get some cells from the father, so the plasma from the father, so they can get him the white blood cells and things like that. So he was now able to get back what he had lost. I don't know how that happened, but then there was cases of reinfection, and eventually they got to leave the country because apparently we didn't have the research to ensure that this didn't happen again. So they had to leave. I haven't followed up, but when you were telling the story, I could remember that episode, and it doesn't happen. I think it's just about 1% of young people who face that kind of ailment. Now, I have my own issue with teeth, which I knew growing up. I always took care of my teeth, right? But as an adult at 42, I find out that I have reoccurring teeth challenges, which the dentist had drilled out holes in my teeth. And So I always feel them back, but then they get to open up again and cause a lot of discomfort. And I heard about the research about some few months back that the regrowth can happen. So I was hoping that this, gets to us fast enough before I lose, my teeth completely.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that some investment in that. I'm really happy that I'm hearing from you today, because I'm hoping that we can have, some form of investment, in companies that can bring in this innovation and creativity into dentistry in Nigeria. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
I
it's not
hope so
really
too. Yes, it's my pleasure to be here and talk with you folks. And thank you for your story. Yeah, I mean, young organisms are much better than mature organisms. We as adults, we just form scar tissue. We don't regenerate wounds. But if you give that area an embryonic matrix, an embryonic environment, then it will regenerate. So it's like we're giving nature a little bit of help to do what it does normally, but we're giving it the environment in which it can do that, right? And the same with teeth. I'm hoping that we'll figure it out. I think one thing is things happen slowly. Like you said, you hope it happens in time. But if in the US you deal with the FDA, it takes a decade to get a new drug to market. Now, I come from high-tech industry. I'm a high-tech entrepreneur. I started 3 companies in wireless communications. So I'm not a medical doctor. I kind of got into this and I learned and I'm fascinated by all this. But in high tech, we can build something, ship it. Maybe there's a problem. We can optimize it, fix it, refine it quickly. There's cycles, right? You sell some software and there's a bug, you fix it, you figure out how people use it, you improve it. There isn't that iteration happening in medicine, and things take so long. And if you make a mistake, you can be sued, your company gets destroyed. So there's just very much risk aversion and a very, very slow progress, unfortunately. But if we are going to solve aging in our lifetimes, in my lifetime, it's not going to be solved at this pace. Right? So we're hoping maybe a younger country has better environment, better regulatory climate, where we can invest. We still take necessary precautions about safety, but I can tell you there's different concept of safety, right? If somebody has stage 4 cancer and they're about to die, they will take risks. They will want to try something new. But if it's a preventive drug, then you have a high risk tolerance. You don't want to take a chance if you don't have a problem, right? So there's various ways and people willing to try new treatments, right? And we need to create an environment where it's possible to try things and fail and try again and make it better. That's how you make progress. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Fiona. Thank you so much for making a time to be here with us. I really appreciate. Brother Jamike, are you here
Well,
for
thank you
the
for
closing?
inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
And let's stay in
Jamike.
touch.
Okay, thank you so much. I will keep in touch and then I'll follow up for other meetings. Thank you so much, guys. Do have a lovely day and good night, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from.
Bye-bye.